Welcome back to the second hour of Citizen Extra, live on Citizen TV. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. Thank you to everyone who sent us their feedback regarding our discussion on Kenyatta National Hospital. Some of you here saying that you don't give us your name, but you say, "Morning Mwaura, back in 1992 when I got my daughter, KNH was worse and other hospitals were notorious. While you are sleeping, you have to hold your baby with one hand in case a thief comes. I lost my shoes and my belongings. I left the hospital within 2 days because of fear." Another person here, you don't give us your name, but you say that apart from talking about rape cases, talk to those nurses because they can make you pass on before the time when you have a baby at nursery. They tell you they are very rude, even telling you to treat your child no matter how sick they are. You say that you lost your baby in 2008 and you still blame them, and those are some of the stories that are happening as well. And I'll be engaging the government spokesman also on Kenyatta National Hospital matters and just his thoughts on the same in just a bit. But before that, let's talk about another aspect that's affecting Nairobi County security. Now, daring daylight robbers, who include a notorious gang known as the 40 Brothers, have been said to intensify their activities in Nairobi city centre, triggering questions about the effectiveness of police patrols and CCTV cameras. Now, these criminals are usually said to target people leaving ATMs, forex bureaus, M-Pesa shops. And recently, we also had Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko stating, or tweeting rather, that he has launched an anti-mugging squad in response to these incidents. Now, to get a report from that, an update, we now bring in Hassan Mugambi, who is on the streets of Nairobi. Hassan, good morning. What can you tell us about Nairobi this morning, even as those who travel in and out of the city every day are very worried about the incidents that we've been reading and hearing about?
Well, good morning to you too, Wahiga. It is buzzing with activity here in Nairobi City. We are at the City Hall roundabout where we're just seeing how things are and conducting a bit of a spot check here and there in the city that has in the recent past been marred by cases of thuggery within the city, especially during rush hour. But then again, yesterday we saw there was a high voltage meeting within the Vigilance House where anti-mugging squad members, police officers who will be dressed in civilian will be just patrolling the city, and they have been asked actually to intensify their activity so that they can nab those that are disturbing the peace of Nairobians. But then again, that has actually come under sharp criticism from observers who are saying that it should have been done like yesterday and not just waiting for the situation to sort of get out of hand so that you can now swing into action and try and quell the whole situation within the city. Nairobi County has also stepped in, and we are being informed that there is an anti-mugging squad that has been formed as well within the Nairobi city that will be working closely with the National Police Service to ensure the safety of Nairobians, and that will be speaking to the head of that particular squad within the Nairobi County, and he will be telling us which are some of the areas that they have mapped as hotspots. That is, those that, apart from those that we already know, the kinds of Ronald Ndala Street, Kimathi Street, as well as Tom Mboya Street, that have actually seen women lose their wigs and handbags, as well as men losing their phones and everything. You are mugged even when you are in a public service vehicle, just traveling inside the traffic jam while you're scrolling your phone. Someone opens the door, or rather the window, and snatch your phone out of your hands. So those are some of the things that they will be trying to combat. But then we are waiting to see how effective the squads that have been formed and intensified will be. Remember, the anti-mugging squad of the National Police Service has been there for a very long time, only that this time round they have been asked to, speed up, or rather intensify their activity within the Central Business District, and also without the Central Business District, to just ensure that these thugs, from wherever they come, do not enter the city so that they can, prey on innocent Kenyans making their way or going about their business. Wahiga.
Well, thank you so much, Hassan Mugambi, for that update. We'll come back to you a bit later on when you have one of the representatives from that anti-mugging unit or squad to give you more details about how they plan to secure the city after some very worrying incidents that have been coming up either on social media or in mainstream media as well. Now, we take you back briefly to the Hilton Hotel where the LSK colloquium on the 2017 presidential election petitions is happening. Speaking at this moment is Justice Paul Kihara, the President of the Court of Appeal.
During the 2017 electoral cycle, some 134 appeals emerged from these, all of which were disposed of by the High Court. In 2013, 188 election petitions were filed in our courts. This number more than doubled in 2017, with 388 petitions filed. So far, 3 election petitions have been allowed, 119 have been dismissed, while 17 have been withdrawn, meaning that 249 petitions are currently pending judgment. Our courts are working assiduously to ensure that these matters are heard and determined within the required constitutional and statutory timelines. Some 191 cases of election offences were filed, and of these, 67 have been concluded, including 34 acquittals. There are currently 119 cases pending before the courts. The fact that the judiciary handled and continues to determine all these matters under stringent timelines and significant resource constraints is an absolute credit to the institution, its judges, judicial officers, and all judicial staff. Our ability to handle these matters is not a coincidence. It is as a result of meticulous planning and management. As many of you are aware, the judiciary has a standing committee, the Judiciary Committee on Elections, chaired by the Honourable Mr. Justice Musaga Pogoli, which advises the judiciary on how to efficiently and expeditiously deal with the election-related disputes. In addition to ensuring that the judiciary puts in place the requisite logistical and administrative structures to expeditiously determine election disputes, the JCE, in consultation with the input of key stakeholders, who include the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the Kenya Police Service, the Honourable the Attorney General, the Registrar of Political Parties, the Law Society of Kenya, and many others, came up with a raft of proposals for legal reforms, many of which are more relevant to your discussions here today. Many of the proposals are captured in the Election Amendment Bill currently before the National Assembly. These amendments include the amendment of Article 140, sub-Article 2 of the Constitution, to increase the period of determination of presidential petitions from 14 to 30 days. The current time allocation places extreme pressure on litigants as well as judges of the Supreme Court.
Well, that's Justice Paul Kihara, President of the Court of Appeal, giving some remarks at the LSK colloquium on the 2017 presidential election petitions. Before he went up, we know that Isaac Okero, the President of the LSK, gave opening remarks. And after this, we expect the keynote speech from Justice Johan Kriegler, retired judge of the Constitutional Court of South Africa and former chairman of the Independent Review Commission. He'll be talking about building judicial resilience and stable jurisprudence on presidential election disputes. We'll be taking you back later on to get a little bit about what he has to say at that forum in Nairobi. Now, as we mentioned earlier, Eric Kiraithe, the government spokesman, is here with us in studio to talk about the government's position on several issues. We'll be talking matters: security, health, and governance, just to name a few. I told you this is an interview you don't want to miss, and that interview begins now. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you for finding time to be here with us this morning.
Asante sana bwana Wahiga.
Great. I'm sure you have not missed the headlines about Kenyatta National Hospital, and I want to start there. Health, a devolved function, but some aspects of health, including Kenyatta National Hospital, still fall under the national government, I believe. I want to get your thoughts on the allegations made against KNH. We are talking about rogue morgue attendants. We're talking about poor security. We are talking about, some have even accused the administration of seeming almost aloof to some of the complaints that were given out as well. I want to begin by getting your thoughts on that.
What I would want to tell you, Wahiga, is that complaints have been made. There are allegations which we might not be interested in, but complaints of insecurity, complaints of criminal offenses like rape, we shall investigate, and those responsible dealt with accordingly. After investigations, the actions the public should expect is that quite often, as a government department, the National Police Service will give an advisory letter, maybe on how to manage security better, maybe on whether that security is what it should be or not, but after inquiry they are able to decide that. They might also recommend administrative action, including disciplinary action against certain individuals, and where the evidence meets the required threshold, prosecution in a court of law, because the allegations made are very, very serious. The government is taking those allegations with the seriousness they deserve. Kenyatta National Hospital is a national icon in very many ways, including being a pillar of provision of medical services. I'm sure we are aware that even when you hear there are doctors in Nairobi Hospital, doctors in Aga Khan, doctors in other hospitals, their alma mater is Kenyatta National Hospital.
What do these allegations do in terms of denting the Jubilee promise of free maternal health care? When you talk about free maternal health care, we assume that there is enough infrastructure to handle that people enjoy these services rather than endure them. But there are many who are questioning. In 2018, we talk about free maternal health care, but with these stories that we are hearing, if even 1% is true, and we can put the rape allegations aside, they're being investigated, but of overcrowded facilities, broken down machines, poor follow-up system, for example, can we really talk about free maternal health care, spokesman?
We are going to talk about free maternal health care because that is where the government wants to take this country. And
wants to take the country, but it's not there yet.
It is even too late, 50 years after independence. This is a hurdle we could have crossed earlier, but we are crossing it. There are a few issues here and there. Let us not give the allegations. Let us not give the allegations credence at this point in time. Let the inquiry be carried out. The management of the hospital itself is very seized of this matter. I am sure the CEO is not taking it in lightly, but let us wait. You never know when they are organizational politics or not. You never know when they are genuine, but every genuine complaint will be looked into, including the fact that those complaints have come out of the hospital. What are the systems which are there, which require to be strengthened? So the government is not taking it lightly, but it is giving every opportunity first for the facts to be established. Then from there, we shall pick it and move on.
There are those who've referenced insecurity incidents in other parts of the country at medical facilities. We had a case 2-3 years ago in Mwingi Central. We recently saw another case at a private facility, though, in Westlands. How can this or these allegations, the uproar, be used to cause change, not just at KNH, but across Kenya? Because we can focus on KNH and forget that there are other facilities with other patients, where security might not be where it is, where facilities might not be where they need to be. Again, I'm looking at the bigger picture of free maternal health care and the facilities that need to back that promise.
Yeah, certainly all the persons responsible for hospitals are listening and they are looking. And it is in their interest, even in the devolved units, that this be done for the citizens of Kenya, that security be improved to the best it can. I am not able to sit here, Waihiga, and tell you that after everybody has done their business process re-engineering and come out with a plan of action, there will not be any breach of security. But what we would want to see from the government side is that they are minimized to the barest minimum, and when it occurs, it is detected on time and proper action taken.
Okay.
So that it does not become a norm that when you go to hospital, you don't need only a doctor, you also need a security person. No.
Okay.
We cannot allow the situation to go to that level.
And speaking about security, let's switch gears now from Kenyatta National Hospital and talk about the streets of Nairobi. You've seen the headlines from last week. Insecurity, we know that the robbers nowadays are very brazen in their attempts. They are not fearing, daylight, so to speak. They don't fear the presence of other Kenyans on the streets. They will attack you in the middle of the day, in the early evening. They'll attack you during rush hour as well. Security still remains a national function. Why, in fact, some would begin by wondering, why has the government not been unable to clear these criminals off the street? This is a government that has been in power since 2013. These are not new allegations. In fact, the situation has escalated. What is happening?
Well, this is Waihiga. One thing I would want to say is that insecurity is a very serious matter. But insecurity is a social evil. What we might forget, it's not an excuse, is that we are just recent from about 6 months where economic activities seriously went down. People even going to earn from Mijengo, people going to earn from kiosk in town, the matatu touts were seriously, their capacity to earn a living was seriously impaired. When you bring the economy to a standstill or slow it significantly, the result is that crime shoots everywhere in the world. Having said that, that is a factor we must appreciate as a country. And when we appreciate it, what happens? Do we accept muggings go on? No. We cannot make mugging crime the new normal in this country. And therefore the Inspector General of Police has been reviewing the situation as a matter of emergency. The government itself has made a lot of changes in the crime management sector, and Kenyans should be able to expect results very shortly. You are part in it. I have told you about the situation. I've told you what the government is doing. You as a citizen, what is your part in it? We have seen some traumatized fellows talking about all kinds of things. A working economy, observing the law, is not a luxury. At the end of the day, when we follow the rule of law, when we work with security services for law enforcement, the dividends come directly to us in terms of increased employment, reduced crime, and so on and so forth. What I can say, the final message is to the criminals involved.
Yes.
The economy has picked up. This country resumed.
I don't know.
If you don't want to cry,
has picked up.
If you don't want to cry,
yes,
kindly avoid crime. Go out there and earn your living, because your days are just too few.
I'm not sure. Okay, I might not agree with you on the economy picking up. We are seeing a different story altogether, in all sectors. But nevertheless, last year when we saw acts by protesters, we saw a police force that was not afraid to go out there and quell protests. Where did these security forces go to? And that's what Nairobians are asking, because on one hand, when it comes to demos, we see thought, preparation, planning by the police force. But when we see incidents like this, people then wonder, where are the police that were there last year? They were accused of being heavy-handed. Where are they when Nairobi citizens are crying?
Let me assure you, Waihiga, The policemen you saw are still very much there. The thinking, the planning you saw is still going on. Nothing has relaxed. We have had a few changes. Wahiga, let's be very frank. There is a reason why cities are planned the way they are planned. If you have hawkers from one end of the street to the other, and you are your licensed shops, these crowds have their own consequences. But we are working with everybody concerned to ensure that the crime stops, and stops now.
And you can promise Nairobi.
And you can hold me to account for that, because the IG is seized of the matter with all his systems, and I can assure you, because I'm very sure, there will be a plan of action which is already in progress that will ensure that that brazenness, that kind of breaking of the law, making Kenyans insecure, stops. There is a question you asked which is very important to answer. You are asking whether the economy has already picked up. We always said as a government, economy is not a bulb where you switch on and switch off. Those people who suffered losses must slowly pick up. It's very easy to destroy the economy. That is why it is very distressing to hear a man like Stephen Kalonzo talking about his desire for Kenya to look like Somalia, his desire for Kenya to look like Southern Sudan. That one is an evil desire.
I'm not sure I heard him say that.
And I'm asking, the kind of statements he issued.
But I don't know if he said those exact words.
He did not say those exact words, but the manner in which the language was coached. The manner in which the language was coached. It's very, very unfortunate.
Okay, we'll be coming to that. I was coming to talk about.
Let me tell you, Wahiga,
next week's proposed swearing in of.
I don't like calling a spade a big spoon. We have a country from the base. The people losing their phones are not today dressed in ties and suits the way we are dressed here. They are not driving in big cars. And they are not even concerned about having policemen at their gate, policemen in their cars, policemen wherever they go.
Okay.
They are interested in a system that gives them an opportunity to earn a living. They are interested in a system that ensures that when they acquire their property legally, they are able to enjoy it. And that is what the government is committed to.
Fair enough. I've given you a chance to finish that point and to make that correlation. We are coming to talk about next week's proposed swearing in of National Leader Raila Odinga, and I'll give you a chance to address that, because I believe that's what you're alluding to when you talked about Kalonzo Musyoka. But there are two things that stand out for me when I look at Kenyatta National Hospital security, when I look at Nairobi City security. I see a situation where we have a government that waits for Kenyans to make noise, whether it's about KNH, whether it's about Nairobi. It could be the same in Lamu as well. A government that is reactive, that swings into action. CSs make statements. Bold proclamations are made after the citizenry creates noise or some sort of thing like that. Why do we have this sort of approach in 2018? Why do we not see a government that states earlier, we saw this? Because we believe government has access to intelligence, knows what is happening. Why do we not see this happening?
Wahiga, business process re-engineering or review of processes, changing to become more effective with the times, is an undertaking that governments do, and other organizations, even citizens, do all the time. It would be unfortunate to accuse the government of waiting for outcry to happen so that it takes action. Just very shortly, after His Excellency the President himself overhauled our internal security system. We are not saying that the officers have slowed down or they are not working or this or the other, but the fact that we have a very vibrant media, the social media now is very effective, means that problems which would have not come to the fore are coming to the fore much faster, because when you see an incident, all you need is to go back to your mobile phone and very soon people will pay attention.
That's right.
This should not be seen as a negative thing.
Or as taking the job of government.
No, it is very positive because it is able to inform the government and on time that you need to pay closer attention to that area. It is not that muggings. I've been a policeman in this city, and I can tell you at some point in time, you couldn't, when you had a mobile phone, you really had to hide it very far. And the public did not come to know of it, but the government intervened. We have had several other operations. The fact that this time round these situations have been highlighted is a positive, and the most important thing is that you yourself are able to report. Over the weekend, the National Police Service was not seated. They did not go for their weekend. They sat in Vigilance House, looked at the situation to see what interventions are required for the situation to come under control. So you are sure the government is working. The county government has responded and said, we are also forming an anti-mugging squad to work with the police so that the situation is corrected.
So can we
the fact that the government is responsive is very important, and the fact that you'll see a more proactive approach is a logical, rational and reasonable expectation from this government.
Okay, we'll hold you to that, but up until now, what we have seen is a reactive approach. I know you're saying some things have been working behind the scenes, but what we see are very broad, sort of big statements given after the citizenry has made a lot of noise. But I'll come back to you about that. You brought in the issue of politics. You talked about some of the statements made by Kalonzo Musyoka. Next week, the National Super Alliance have stated they'll swear in Raila Odinga as the people's president on Tuesday. Will the government allow that function to take place at Uhuru Park?
Wahiga.
It's a yes or no question.
Wahiga, I wouldn't want to answer it with a yes or no question. There is a reason why those people who discovered the idea of the state discovered the idea of laws, and one supreme law called the Constitution. Last year, Kenyans had not one presidential election, two, both of which ended in a court of law, and the matter was concluded. Everybody, the international community, they had things to say, but all of them endorsed. Today, the LSK and the judicial fraternity
the same discussion.
are seated asking about the lessons learned.
Good. The facts of last year are clear.
Today,
Kenyans, next week.
Today, Kenyans
yes.
are struggling with returning to school, the economy picking up again.
Okay.
Let me tell you one thing.
As you answer my question.
Once a person says, I deserve money, I need money, I think I'm entitled to it, but the way of achieving it is to go to the Central Bank of Kenya and rob the bank. That person will be trying to acquire money, which is a perfectly legitimate desire.
Is that what you're saying NASA is doing?
Using criminal means. Precisely.
So NASA's swearing in next week.
They want power.
Using criminal means to take power?
They want power. They desire power. Maybe they even deserve it. But unfortunately,
so
there is a law in this country.
Okay.
It must be followed. It is not the business of government to sit down and say, since a robber has said you'll go to Waiga Mwaura's house and pick his television next week, because they also think they deserve a television, it is not for the government to sit and discuss things.
So you're not going to allow them to access Uhuru Park next week?
What we are saying is that
yes,
if you try to actualize that by overt acts, you learn the hard way what the law does with arrogant criminals. Whether you are politically traumatized or not, we sympathize with you. Whether your ambitions have been trusted by acts of God, we sympathize with you. But you will not, and I'm saying again, you will not bring this country down because you are traumatized.
Fair enough. I think you've now answered my question. Let me allow you to take a short break. We want to pick something briefly and I'll come back to you, Kirai. We want to take you to the courts now, where Embakasi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino is appearing in court this morning on allegations of assault. The Member of Parliament was arrested on Friday and spent 2 nights in custody at the Parklands police station after being accused of assaulting a parking attendant in Westlands. He was released over the weekend following intervention by Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja. We want to give you an update now. Can we take you to the courts to take a look at what is happening now? We apologize for that technical hitch. We're not able to bring you that picture right now. We'll take you back there later, and even as we end up this discussion. So just to clarify your point, so there will be no swearing in at Uhuru Park on Tuesday. Is that what you're saying as the position of government?
The position of government is that no criminal offenses will be committed in this country because we have a government, we have a constitution. And the government does not want to sound as if it is threatening anybody.
The supporters feel so. They still remember what happened when NASA leader Raila.
If you feel threatened, the better for you, because personally I fear committing crimes a lot. I fear, even in traffic, when I realize that I've started overspeeding, I slow down. Because I'm going outside the law. Every Kenyan is equal before the law of this country, and the law and the constitution must be respected. Fair enough. It is not an option.
Fair enough, and that is correct. When NASA leader Raila Odinga came back from the United States last year, we saw the loss of life, the confrontation between police and supporters, scenes that Kenyans have not forgotten. Are you telling us that we can expect to see such scenes on Tuesday, or will we see a government that is more the information in how it handles
the information we have, and even if you look at the ground, is that it's really unfortunate. I don't know why a very otherwise respectable elder of the republic like Raila Odinga cannot talk to sober minds. This morning I had breakfast even with some 2 NASA MPs, and they are also stressed. The fact of the matter is that every Kenyan now, even deep in the slums, understands the law very well, and every Kenyan wants to see the law move forward. Granted, most supporters of NASA want to see some of their leaders be given an opportunity to play a part in this country, a bigger part than they are playing, than a vanquished loser. They want that, and that is perfectly well, and everybody who should have said so has said there are opportunities for that. What we are saying no to Wahiga is not to tell Kenyans to expect bloodshed, to expect that. There will be none of that, because even the numbers to turn out are not simply fair.
Are you sure?
Kenyans are wiser. I am not discouraging anybody, and I don't want to talk politics. I don't want to appraise the capability of people to raise crowds for illegal means. What I want to state very categorically is that there is a law in this country, and let us, all of us, fit inside. Kenyans are not desirous of being Somalia. Kenyans are not desirous of being Southern Sudan. Kenyans decided what they wanted to be when they passed their constitution of 2010. They gave themselves an independent judiciary, an independent electoral commission. Kenyans have decided what they want to look like, put it in writing, and passed it in a referendum. Those of us who could have voted no, too bad. We have to fight, because at this point in time, the law of the country is very, very apparent.
Okay.
And nobody should tell anybody they want to be sworn in as president. That is nonsense. It is a practical impossibility. It has no basis in anything.
Okay. I think
you will break the law, but you won't become the governor of central bank, even if you wanted the money.
You have put your point across and answered my question on the same. Of course, the concern again being, if the government was to allow the supporters to go where they wanted to go, could you reduce incidents, bloodshed, etc., because we saw that whenever the police showed up at these protests, and that's when things went out of hand. Again, that sort of approach not in the government's view?
When it comes to tactical issues,
yes,
of how the Inspector General of Police deals with a situation, that is...
Especially when you see innocent lives getting lost in the midst of all that.
It's a purely an operational matter. I would not claim the competence to comment on it now.
Okay.
What I would tell Kenyans is that, foremost on the government policy is protection of life and property. The government does not want even one life to be lost. That is why I would want to tell Kenyans, without seeming to dictate or threaten you, if you see a situation that is illegal, that is likely to result to injury, kindly keep off.
Thank you.
It is of no benefit.
Asante sana. Government spokesman, Ricky Raide, thank you so much for finding time to be here with us. We take you back now to the LSK